Senator Neufeld from British Columbia.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Very interesting discussion. I'm kind of on the same page as Senator Mazzacott. I mean, when we were in Alberta, we heard from some scientists, had all the correct documentation behind her name, that, wow, it's so simple, it's happening. and we go from one extreme to the other, for us anyhow, from one side to the other side. And I'm definitely not a scientist. I depend on people like yourself that have gone to university, have done the things that you've done in your lives to do whatever you're doing. And so I want to tell you that for me, I'm not sold either way. I'm still wondering. And I've been involved with it quite a bit over the last decade or so. So if you think about Fred and Martha, that's the people in their busy lives, they're likely not, in most cases, thinking about it too much because it is so controversial. I'd like to ask how many scientists, such as yourselves, would be on the same kind of, I don't know, wavelength as you are in your thought processes. I'm not disputing your thought processes. I'm just asking, is there a lot of them? Are they just quiet? Do they never say anything? And if they are quiet, why the heck are they? Because the other side of the fence is very loud. And I'm not talking about Al Gore, because Al Gore is just another politician to me that is traveling around the world in probably most of all kinds of vehicles that consume huge amounts of fossil fuels and telling everybody else they shouldn't use it. So I'm not talking about Al Gore. I'm talking about scientists. I'm talking about people like that have the training to talk as you folks are.
Senator, so can I just, what I heard, I hope you'll forgive me, Senator, both Senators Mazzacott and Neufeld are basically saying, you know, we are hearing much more from the other side, the other point of view than the one you guys are expressing. And why is that? Is that not basically it, Richard?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the question
You both asked that question. Yeah.
I can only answer from my experience. But first of all, once I read somewhere that when the bandwagon is rolling, one has only two options: to be part of the engine or part of the road. Okay, so a bandwagon is rolling. I grew up in Czechoslovakia in a communist system, and I know there was Lysenkoism and things like that. You just had to go with the bandwagon. Now, this situation, I've been very senior and well-supported scientist, both in Europe and here. I have no complaints. But I believed in it, and I in fact started working on the whole issue because I wanted to find the so-called missing sink for carbon dioxide, because Canada would get the credits for it. And eventually I turned around after many years, several years, and the point is that all those things what I'm telling you about, the cosmogenic nuclides, the role of the sun, there was lots and lots of publications. You go into IPCC, and the whole issue is essentially dismissed in 2 sentences, and it doesn't exist. Now, what we are showing you are data, not models, data. So, are we having a science where good correlations mean nothing, and no correlation are a proof for CO2? We showed you the correlation. Those are known. Now, and these papers, including mine, were published in Nature. Not a word in this. In fact, there were even personal threats and attacks and defamation actions being organized against people who talk about sun. So It's changing now. Slowly it's changing. And science is not a democracy. Okay? So if the data do not fit what the models are saying, then it's not the data which have to be changed, it's the models.
I could add to that from the perspective that we see climate warming has become a very big industry, and not only in the political realm, but in the scientific realm. And a week ago, I was out in Calgary. I had a public debate with a person he is a research chair in climate change. His research money comes from the fact that we're warming up the planet catastrophically. And privately, we had a lot of discussion about this. And he said, what people say, would emphasize to me, what people say scientifically in private and in public are two different things. And he says, I agree with the science. And then in the debate, he agreed with many of my points. In fact, he agreed with all my points. But he would still come back and say, but we're putting CO2 in the air. It's a greenhouse gas. It must be having some effect. So what people say publicly and what scientists perhaps think can be two different things. And I think we have to be very careful in buying into the conclusions of scientists who are fully funded to a great extent, far more than the skeptical community, if I can say it, are funded. And so to a certain extent, they'll stick with their party line.
Okay.